Good afternoon, everyone that is joining us live right now. And if you are going to be joining us watching virtually later, no worries, we welcome you as well. But my name is Jonathan Moss, and I serve as the second year graduate assistant for the Office of New Student Orientation. And we are so excited to have you all join our webinar today regarding your freshman orientation session. So the main purpose of this webinar is for you to ask any questions that you may have regarding registering for your orientation session, what to expect, as well as some of our campus partners that will also be on this wonderful webinar with you all. So to go ahead and get started, I'm going to introduce these wonderful staff members that will be answering you all's questions today. They're going to be from the Office of New Student Orientation, Parent and Family Programs, as well as the University Advising Center. So I will go ahead and turn it to you, Allison, to kick off introductions.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. Hey, everyone. My name is Allison Leach Hughes. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I serve as the Director of New Student Orientation. If you tuned in our last webinar, you probably saw me in that one too. We answered all your questions about registration. And I can't start this off without saying we're super excited to welcome you to the University of South Carolina this summer, and specifically to this webinar, and have the opportunity to answer all your questions about what to expect in orientation. So thanks for joining us, and I'll turn it over to Lena, excuse me.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lena Holt, and I serve as the Director for Parent and Family Programs. I'm very excited to welcome our Gamecock families to the community. Our office really works with you. Once you come through orientation, Allison and Jonathan will pass you all over to our office, and we get to work with you for the duration of your time at Carolina. So excited to speak with you all and answer any questions that we can. I'll pass it to Mike.
Thank you so much, Lena. As she said, my name is Mike Dial. I'm the Associate Director of Undergrad Advising here at USC. I oversee, work with a team of academic advisors who are going to be incredible resources to you over your next 4 years here at Carolina. And I will not say too much more. I assume we've got some questions about advising at orientation, so I'll leave it at that. And I believe pass it back to Jonathan to start us today.
Yes, so I know this is the most important part for you all. I will go ahead and tell you that you can go ahead and start asking those questions. If you see that large green interact button on your screen, you can click that and it will allow you to submit your questions that you may have regarding your orientation session, questions for parent and family programs, as well as for university advising. And we will respond to those either live or directly via the chat feature. And so we're going to start out with breaking the ice. So while you may be thinking of some questions that you want to ask our wonderful staff members here, we're going to go ahead and get started. So Allison, the first question of the webinar is for you. So what should I expect at my freshman orientation session?
Yeah, absolutely. We take a lot of care and time in thinking about what makes orientation successful for all of our incoming freshmen and their family members and supporters. So first, a little bit about the program itself. You're going to be attending a 2-day orientation experience. There is an overnight component in it for our students, which we are really excited about to get back to post-COVID-19. We did it last year. We'll do it again this year. And really, orientation aims at giving you the best glimpse of what college life is like. So we're going to talk about a lot of different resources that are available to you, opportunities for you to get involved and engaged on campus. There are going to be some different aspects where you'll actually have the opportunity to meet with an academic advisor, like Mike's area, and he'll talk to you all about that, learn about some of the academic requirements, and just some of the pure fun things to do during your time at USC. You'll do this through a variety of different sessions. Some of them are going to be a little bit more informational based. Some of them are going to be a little bit more hands-on or in a small group format, so you're not in just a large group all the time. And some of the most important aspects to our office are our orientation leaders. And orientation provides an opportunity for you to meet really in a small group with current students leading those to tell you a little bit about the ins and outs of the University of South Carolina and some of their experiences and where they ate their first year, where they might have lived on campus and housing, and what they might have gotten involved with, or how they made a connection with a professor or an academic advisor. There's a lot of different expertise pieces that they have to offer because they're all current students, which we really appreciate. And the nice thing about orientation is we try to incorporate a little bit of fun too. So we even have things like Gamecocks After Dark, where students have the opportunity after the first full day of orientation to go and hang out at our fitness and wellness center on campus, and go and hang out by the pool, or maybe they want to do a pickup game of basketball. All that's included in new student orientation as well. So anything that's going to successfully orient you to the university, that's our goal. And if we do have any families here, we also have a concurrent family and supporter orientation. And you'll do a lot of the things with your student that I've described, but some of those are going to be specific sessions just for families as well. And Lena will probably talk about that a little bit too. But we highly encourage families to join us and support their students in that way as well.
Great. Thank you for answering that, Allison. So now we have a question for you, Mike. Will I get my class schedule at orientation?
Yeah, great question. And I'm seeing a few of the folks in the chat have already asked that or something similar. The answer is yes. So at orientation on, Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 1 p.m. on day 2 for freshmen. You, or your Gamecocks, I should say, your future Gamecocks, will meet with an academic advisor. What that'll look like will differ depending on the college that they're in, but realistically, they're probably going to have a mix of some group time with other students and academic advisors and some kind of individual touch base. They won't see at orientation likely real in-depth 30-minute advising one-on-one, but they're going to get some classes. They're going to get recommended courses to take. They're going to get some time with an advisor. And what they'll do after that time with academic advisors is they'll generally transition to a computer lab somewhere nearby. They'll go as a large group, or there's, it's the next room over. And in that computer lab, they'll get into our campus technologies and they'll actually register for classes for the upcoming semester. So they'll be able to do that right then and there. In terms of, just to go a little deeper, the question of, will I get my class schedule? There may be a class or two that you're unable to get into at that time. Generally speaking, it's never going to be the full schedule, but it could be student really wants to take a history class and history classes are full at that point. Our advice to students is to continue checking back in. We have almost never had students not get a class that they want or need. It's just a matter of, in that moment, at that time, the department is still working on opening up more sections. But certainly students will leave orientation with a full schedule.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering that. I see a lot of questions regarding parent and family programs. So this one's for you, Lena. So I'm a parent or a family member coming to orientation, super excited for my student to be a Gamecock. How do I go ahead and get connected with your office? And what kind of resources do you all provide for me?
Absolutely. So I was making my notes, and I guess the first thing I'll tell my families is make sure that you bookmark our Parent and Family Gateway page. We have recently updated it. It's very easy to navigate. So again, they'll drop it in the chat, but it's sc.edu/parents. Very easy to get to. Every other resource I mentioned right now is also on this gateway. So really, you just have to get to the website to get up to all the information. So the ways to stay connected to our office, highly recommend join the Gamecock Family Hub. It's also a place where you are able to get timely and relevant communication. You even get to decide how you want to get your information. Do you want it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? Maybe you don't want it at all and you just want to go to the portal and sign in. That's okay. No judgment. We want you to get the information the way you want to get it. You also will get email communications from the university, mostly big communication, the president, chief of police, big university colleagues will share information. Like the recent one was spring break safety tips, things we want to keep you connected to as well as your students. The other thing is we have a mobile app, which I can go into in a little bit, but that really is a easy way to navigate campus right on your phone. So again, same information, just in a different way, dependent on how you like to get information. And we also have our assistance line. So I actually answer the phone lines. Families are typically shocked when I answer the phone line. It is truly me. I don't really have a student assistant often, so I answer the phones. So call if you have questions. And really, if you don't know who to call, our number should be the first one you're calling, and I will do my best to get you to the right office or resource.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lena. And to all of you watching right now, we're going to go ahead and share a PowerPoint at the end of this presentation so you can go ahead and access all of our contacts. So the information that Lena was just addressing, you'll be able to have that link at the end of this webinar. So Allison, I think this next one's for you. I'm seeing a lot of questions regarding what do I wear to orientation? What should I bring?
Well, obviously, everyone needs a brand new like Gamecock t-shirt, right? I'm just kidding. You don't have to go all out for orientation, but it's always welcome. I suggest dressing really comfortably. That's the main thing. If you are familiar with Columbia in the summer, it can traditionally be a little hot. I actually think Columbia is called famously hot Columbia. So just something to keep in mind. You'll want to dress for comfort, but also recognize as you move around campus, when we go into buildings, we believe in air conditioning at South Carolina, which is a benefit for all of us. So while you might want to wear like t-shirts and shorts, those kind of things, I would always recommend bringing like a light jacket, cardigan, something like that you can put on just in case you do get a little chilly in any of our meeting spaces. On that same note, I do highly recommend bringing an umbrella or a raincoat or something similar because unfortunately it is the summer and that means that sometimes there will be rain. There's a decent amount of movement from one location to the next of where we do orientation because we want to get you really familiar with campus and start navigating from point A to point B so you know where your classes are located or you know where those organization meetings are once you get here on campus. And so with that in mind, comfortable walking shoes are a high recommend. But really at the end of the day, we want you to be comfortable. We want you to feel good throughout the 2-day experience. So whatever that looks like, just make sure to pack accordingly. And while we're speaking of packing, the other thing that I will note it's just a reminder for our students staying in the residence hall. You'll be in Patterson Hall this summer, and you will need to bring linens with you. So that's a new piece this year. So don't forget to pack like a pillow and a towel and some sheets. That way you can stay warm and dry once you hop out of the shower. So just a few reminders.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Allison. And just a reminder, if you're just now joining us live, you can go ahead and hit that green interact button that you see on your screen and go ahead and type in those questions. So I've seen a lot of questions regarding placement testing. When am I supposed to take my placement tests? And what if I may be receiving AP credit? Do I still have to take a placement test?
Great question. So the short answer is yes. I would encourage you to take placement tests for both foreign language and math, even if you're in AP or dual enrollment courses for those. The benefit there is you could potentially test into a higher level of a course. The other concern is specifically with foreign languages, there are different foreign language requirements for the different colleges on campus. And I would hate for your advisor not to have the information they need at the time of orientation to give you the best possible advice. In terms of when can you register, from my look, both registrations look open now. What I would encourage folks to do is just go to sc.edu, which is our USC webpage, and in the search bar, type foreign language placement test, hit enter. You'll take you to the foreign language department, the Department of Literature, Language, and Cultures website. You can find information there. Same thing for the math placement test. Type in math placement test. My understanding is that incoming students here shortly before orientation should be placed into a Blackboard course. So blackboard.sc.edu, log in, see if you're in a course for the math placement test. If your Gamecock is not in a math placement test yet, or if you are the Gamecock not in a math placement test course yet, no big deal. There's a form on the Department of Mathematics math placement test website to go ahead and let them know that you need to be added to that course. Again, my recommendation would be to take both, even if you are currently taking or have completed some kind of course credit through either AP, IB, or dual enrollment.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mike. Our next question that we're seeing a lot of is, do I stay in a residence hall overnight? So I'll go ahead and let you answer that one, Allison.
Yeah, so assuming this is from a student, yes, we do have orientation accommodations that are included within your orientation fee. So you would check in on day one, at the first day of your orientation session, and bring with you all your materials to check into the residence hall, which this year will be in Patterson Residence Hall, which is right across from the Russell House and also right across from Bull Street Parking Garage, which is where you'll park for new student orientation as well. All of that information should be in your confirmation email. And if you ever don't have your confirmation email readily available, you can always give us a call, and we can always resend that to you. But more than likely, it's in your email. So just do a quick check of that. But you will be staying in Patterson. You'll need to bring linens, those types of things. I think we chatted about that already. Assuming this question is coming from a family member or a supporter, housing is not included for orientation for our guests, families, and supporters. However, if that's something that you're interested in, conferences, our conference center on campus within university housing does provide a limited number of available residence hall accommodations for families if they choose to register. It's kind of like booking a hotel. So if you are interested in staying on campus, you wouldn't be staying with your student, but you would be staying in a similar residence hall, just a little bit further away from the Patterson Residence Hall that I mentioned earlier. I believe registration should go live very soon for that, but it's not included in your orientation reservation. So that's important to note there, but also families and guests can absolutely stay off campus and any hotel accommodations. We have some fantastic partners that we work with for new student orientation. And I highly recommend reaching out to one of those. And there's a ton of information on our website about that. And that website is sc.edu/orientation. And you can look up all the partners and more information about housing and accommodations during the student orientation.
Great, thank you, Allison. So I think this next question is a little bit for both Allison and Lena. So we have quite a few questions regarding what family and supporter orientation looks like as far as the schedule.
I'll let
Yeah,
Allison take this. She builds the schedule, so I'll let her have that.
Perfect. So really it starts out with a good bit of the information that your student is getting with the family members there as well, because we feel like sometimes multiple sets of ears are helpful to hear and take in all the information, formulate any questions. So the morning sessions typically start off with information-based sessions, and then from there we transition into lunch, which is really good food. Then after that, both students and families have the opportunity to attend an academic college visit. So that's when you learn a little bit more about some of the academic requirements. You can ask any questions. A lot of times those are hosted within the actual spaces that the college is located on campus, which is really nice. You kind of get to tour and get a feel for not only the space, but the staff you might be meeting with and taking classes with throughout the next 4 years or so. After academic college visits, we have a great opportunity for some breakout sessions where you get the opportunity to customize your USC experience. This is a great opportunity for students and families to stick together if they want, or maybe separate if they want. There's a lot of different sessions offered, and so you might want to maximize your options and break down, choose your own adventure that way. But things like Student Success Center, managing finances, there's a ton of different resources, fraternity and sorority life, our Office of Multicultural and Student Affairs, great breakout sessions, as well as opportunities to get involved and stay connected on campus. After that, we'll break into some different small groups. Students will be in small groups. Families go into some dedicated family programming during that time. Hear from myself and Lena. We do a really cool presentation and we talk about different things you can experience as a family member and how to best help support your student throughout their transition to USC. There's dinner, and then there are a few really nice socials for family members to connect while students go off and do some other evening programming activities. On day two, very similarly, There's some morning sessions, which you start off in. We head to lunch immediately following that. And then the afternoon portion of day 2 is really focused on the family experience and another round of family specific sessions. One of our most coveted presentations, they call it the comedy hour, is the student point of view panel, where we get to feature some of our orientation leaders, and you get to ask real life students real life questions, and they're going to give you real life answers too, which I think is really cool. You'll have the opportunity to hear from housing, and then we have an activity that we wrap up orientation with, and then you're done. So that's a little bit of an overview of a little bit of the student schedule as well as the family schedule mix.
Perfect. Thank you, Allison. This next question is for you, Mike. So if I'm a student coming through orientation, am I getting a permanent advisor assignment during my new student orientation experience? Will that be the advisor that I work with throughout the semester?
Great question. Most likely, I don't want to say most likely, it could or could not be the advisor that you'll work with during your time at USC. When you come to orientation, you're going to work with most likely someone from a group of advisors who work in the college that your major is housed in. So you'll certainly be meeting with someone who has curricular expertise in the major program of study that you're enrolled in. That being said, at orientation, we're going to focus on the basics in advising. So we're really going to be looking at the Carolina Core, which are general education requirements here at USC. We can go deeper on that later. Prior college work you're bringing in, dual enrollment, AP, IB scores, and advising towards initial major courses when possible. That being said, once we get to around August and majors are pretty solidified, we'll get folks assigned to an official academic advisor who's going to be their advisor for the next few years. With that advisor in the fall and spring semesters, you'll meet once a semester and really be talking about the details. So course options, your degree timeline, your transition to Carolina, what's it been like, beyond the classroom opportunities for you to engage in an intentional way, and campus resources that will improve or make your experience more meaningful. So all that being said, in that orientation advising session, you're going to meet with an expert, you're going to meet with someone who knows your curriculum, but it may or may not be the person who you end up officially assigned to in August. Good question.
Perfect. Thank you for that. This next one is for you, Allison. So I am an honor student and I am an athlete coming to orientation. What does that kind of look like for me?
Yeah, so we do have some special populations that are joining us for new student orientation this year. Those are things, or students like honors, athletes, but as well as Gamecock Gateway, our Palmetto Pathway, got Carolina Life. There's just a ton of different options available. So if you fall within one of those programs, you've probably already registered for orientation and know that you're attending a specific date or series of dates. In most cases, those student types are attending some specialized meetings with their individual programs or populations throughout new student orientation, but a good many of them are also attending the majority of new student orientation along with the traditional student body as well. So you'll still have the same time commitment, roughly a 2-day process, but you might have 1 or 2 meetings here or there, or you might be doing things at a little bit of a different time in order to fit that meeting in. So once you arrive to new student orientation, you're going to get a schedule that's going to give you everything that you need to know, where things are located, what times they start, everything along those lines. And some of that is because we're still finalizing a few of the room locations and staffing pieces and so on and so forth as we get ready for orientation to start in about a month, a little over a month. So with that being said, check your emails for your confirmation email. Like I mentioned earlier, that's going to tell you exactly what time to be there and what time you're committed through. But just as a reminder, check-in starts at 8 a.m. on day 1. And the last thing on day 2 should end by 5 p.m. We need you to block that entire 8 to 5 p.m. time frame on both days. Or throughout the day 1 to day 2, just to make sure you don't miss anything, especially when we get into travel arrangements and flight schedules and so on and so forth. And then from there, once you get to check in, you're going to get a specialized schedule. So for instance, if you are honors or athletes or something like that, we'll outline any of those specialized meetings. But other than that, you're attending all of the regular sessions with other students and families attending orientation at USC.
Wonderful. Thanks, Allison. We've got another question for you, actually. So I know we've talked a little bit about housing so far, but I see quite a few questions regarding who my roommate is at orientation. Am I assigned a roommate, or can I room with a friend that is also coming to orientation?
Yeah, so roommates for new student orientation are randomly assigned. So you won't necessarily be able to select your roommate or necessarily room with a friend that's coming to that same orientation session. This is really an opportunity to get to know some additional people and to kind of figure out what it's like living on your own if you've never done that before. Plus, it's one night. So we encourage you to kind of learn a little bit about yourself and push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. But if you do have any special accommodations or anything like that when it comes to needing like a private bathroom due to a medical need or something like that, please reach out to new student orientation and let us know, and we'll be happy to explore what those reasonable accommodations are to make sure you have the best new student orientation experience possible.
Great. Thank you, Allison. So Mike, I think you've talked about this a little bit, but we have quite a few questions regarding dual enrollment transcripts. If when I come to orientation, I meet with my advisor, if I should bring those transcripts if I have them, or how that will work.
Yeah, great question. Bring as little paper as you need to. We certainly do not need paper transcripts at orientation. When you are able to, go ahead and have your high school, dual enrollment, any transcripts you have available, AP and IB scores, sent over to the admissions office, and we can certainly make sure that information is available. I'm sure Allison has it in about 15 to 62 emails that'll be coming your way in the next couple weeks. But that being said, send all those official transcripts over. You've probably seen in your emails now that we have what we call a pre-orientation advising worksheet. That's a digital form. It is incredibly beneficial to get that form, that worksheet completed for our academic advisors. It's going to ask questions about your current major, your commitment to your major, some basic demographic stuff. So, you know, if you're Jonathan, but you go by John, we want to know that. So we'll ask for a preferred name. So we're getting some of that information up front, but then there's also a section on the worksheet that's going to ask you to let us know about any AP or IB tests that you've taken. If you know what score you've received, you can enter it there. If you don't know, you can say that. If you've got a pretty good guess on what your score is, you can even tell us what you think your score is, and it'll give you those options to do that. So do that for us. And then you can also either send in, you can upload unofficial transcripts and PDFs to that worksheet, or you can go in one by one and enter courses taken at different institutions. Either way, having that information is incredibly valuable for our advisors, because as you can imagine, when we bring in as many students as we do, as quickly as we do, it does take our colleagues in admissions and the registrar's office a little bit to get some of that information processed. So there is a chance that you'll have sent something in, but it's not on your record yet at the time your advisor is meeting with you or preparing with you. So having that information unofficially entered on the worksheet, in addition to sending it in officially, is incredibly important for your advisors. That being said, if you get in there and have any questions on that worksheet, I'm your guy, so feel free, reach out to me. You can find my information online, but feel free, reach out. I'm more than happy to help anyone when it comes to that pre-orientation worksheet.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike, for that information. So if I am a student and I'm traveling from a little ways and I opted to stay the night before my orientation session, when do I need to be there? What time am I allowed to check in?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can definitely opt to check in the night before, but it is an additional fee within your registration process. So definitely make sure to plan ahead and go ahead and add that additional night stay before or after orientation. Both are an option, but you don't have to do both. You can do either or. Once you get that added in, you'll get more details as you get a little bit closer. But we are asking for students to arrive around that 4:30, 5 o'clock time frame and after. That allows us to get the building cleaned and flipped between the orientation sessions. So just want to give that, you can't show up at 8 a.m. the day before your session. Unfortunately, the students attending orientation the day before are still in those rooms and checking out of orientation. So we want to make sure it's clean and ready to go for you. So around that 4:30, 5 o'clock or after time frame. Plus, if you're traveling from out of town, that gives you a little bit of travel time to get in and get connected. But if you ever need a list of things to do in the meantime, maybe you do get here at about 1 o'clock and you want to explore Columbia, let us know. We've got a ton of things that we can recommend. You can go on our new student orientation website, sc.edu/orientation. We've got a full list of things that you can do to explore Columbia and go ahead and get your bearings throughout new student orientation. So highly recommend that. For our folks that are wanting to stay one extra night after new student orientation, so maybe you get done at 5 and the flights are just a little bit too messy for you to figure out that same night, you can definitely go out the next day, add that additional stay, but you need to be checked out of your residence hall room by 8 a.m. the next morning, again, so we can get it cleaned and ready for the next group of students coming after you. Great questions.
Great. Thank you, Allison. So there's been quite a few questions regarding our University 101 course here and if it counts towards degree completion.
Great question. So University 101 is an absolutely incredible program. It's an incredible course. Many of us on the call here teach or have taught previously. The answer is yes and no. So in most cases, it's going to fill an elective requirement. In a few cases for some majors, it is built into the degree. Again, in most cases, it's an elective. Generally speaking, there are very few programs on campus that it's not a great fit in the degree, but in a lot of those programs, students tend to be bringing in AP, dual enrollment, IB credit, so there's a little bit of room, flexibility in the schedule. I would recommend when it comes to orientation and you're sitting with an advisor, if you want to take U101, let them know that. It is, as I said, a very valuable experience, and they'll work with you to figure out the best way possible to make it work for you.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Highly recommend U101.
Ditto.
So I think this one is actually for you as well, Mike. So what can students do prior to coming to orientation and meeting with their advisor to kind of help with this process?
In terms of, I'm gonna imagine we're asking in terms of getting prepared, and that's a great question. So a few small things. One, I already talked about the pre-orientation advising worksheet. I'll try to mention that maybe 3 times. I hear when you say something 3 times, people remember it. So the pre-orientation worksheet's a big one. Log into Self-Service Carolina, and under registration, you'll be able to click on a tab called Student Profile. In that student profile, you'll be able to see if you have any holds on your account. Common holds that prevent students from registering at orientation are things like an immunization hold because you haven't gotten fully immunized or presented the university with evidence that you are immunized. Get in, take a look at those holds, make sure you're good to go. You can look at, we call them major maps here at the University of South Carolina. They'll give you a typical schedule of what students would take over 4 years or 8 semesters. They're not perfect for everyone. Again, students today bring in credit, so the semesters don't perfectly align, but that's a great place to go in and start to get an idea of courses that might make sense for you in that first semester.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. So this one is regarding families coming to orientation. So if I'm a family member, should I come? Should I attend? What are the benefits? How do I get connected afterwards? I know, Lena, you touched a little bit about that. And then also on that note, if I'm a student, I can't really come with a family member supporter. Is that okay? And how does that kind of look?
I'll start. I would say if you're able to bring a family member, supporter, or guest, highly recommend it. There's a lot of information that happens to just fly at you during orientation. And so having an extra person there to take notes and capture information can be very helpful. On the flip side, if you're not able to, just be prepared to take notes and make sure you take in all the information so that you can share it with your guest or supporter or family member who isn't able to attend. But I highly recommend it. I know I'm the parent and family programs person, but I do believe that it is a partnership. That's the biggest thing I will say from our office is we know that family members, guest supporters of our students are a big influence on their success. And so being a part of that journey, starting at orientation can be really valuable. I'll share one quick thing. I had a parent call just last week and they were like, I wrote your name down and your phone number back in orientation and I needed to ask a random question. And it was something so random, but they wrote my name down, had my number, and was able to give me a call. I believe that happens many times in multiple sessions where families are capturing those nuggets that students aren't getting because they're focused on the other parts of the presentation. So I think it's doing it together can be really valuable, but I'll let Allison speak to if your family member supporter can't be there, because I'm sure she has lots of tips for that.
I know when I went off to college, there was a lot of conversation on whether my parents should or shouldn't join me for my orientation. And my dad couldn't, but my mom did ultimately. But I was a first generation college student, and she didn't necessarily know how to support me best throughout that process. And so she was a little unsure of what questions to ask, so on and so forth. And so I always think one of the best pieces of advice, if a family member can't come, and really, even if they can, sit down together before you attend new student orientation and write a list of questions that you have, that your family members have, down before. That way you can make sure you're getting all the information that you need and you can kind of report back. There was a period of time that I didn't know if my mom was going to be able to come to new student orientation with me. And so in that case, I had other people that I was coming to the university with, that I got pseudo adopted for the week. And they said, it's fine, you will be my third child, right? Or my second child. And I thought that was really sweet too. And then I ended up getting them like a mom and dad t-shirts to wear during new student orientation. It was really cute. But I recommend, reaching out, identifying what some of those questions are. It sounds a little cheesy, but maybe thinking about what you want your USC experience to look like, because it's going to be different for every person, right? And I think our family members and our supporters and guests play a really important role in helping us make meaning of that. And, thinking about, like, it's not just the social, it's also the academic, but it's also the career based. And it's also, what am I going to do past USC, or maybe just for fun? Or where am I going to eat, right? All these big questions that pop up. So brainstorming some of those with your family members before attending orientation is always great. And then, of course, wrapping back around after new student orientation to be able to talk through some of those things, and knowing that orientation is not a one and done type thing. This is something that you have an office on campus that's devoted to making sure that you transition smoothly to the university, whether it is day one in August when classes start, or whether we are 10 days out from the end of your second semester. We're here, and we want to make sure that you're supported along the way. And very similar to both what Lena and Mike have shared, you have people that care and want to make sure that you're doing well. And so let us know how we can help. And for our family members that maybe might not be able to join, Lena, she's the go-to resource. I'll tell you, I am also on the Gamecock Family Hub, and I do not have a student at USC, but I learn a lot about the university truly from the Gamecock Family Hub and the various ways to stay connected with our office. And so if you need to write somebody's name down, it's Lena's for sure.
Yes, thank you all so much for that information. And I know, Allison, you just mentioned the Family Hub. I know, Lena, you talked about it when you're giving your introduction, but are you able to just kind of remind the folks who are maybe joining us right now how to go ahead and get involved in that Family Hub even before they attend orientation?
Absolutely. So I would highly recommend go to our Parent and Family Gateway. So it's sc.edu/parents. Once you're there, you're going to see a link to be able to join the Gamecock Family Hub. Essentially, it's a portal. It's a family portal where you are able to log in and customize your profile. What that does is it allows you to get e-newsletters the way you want to. So some people want them weekly. Some are like, no, don't send me an email every week. I don't have time for that. Others want it monthly, right? So that's really great. The secondary component that I think is really, really valuable to our families is you're able to customize the content. You get to decide what communities you want to be a part of. When you create your profile, there's going to be questions, demographics, various things that are going to be important to you, whether that's Greek life, that's housing and residence life, career development. Those are just a few to name. It's important to complete your profile. That is going to then in turn create your portal where you're going to get information and content based on what you want to know. It's very, very useful. I've been getting messages from families that they appreciate being in the know, and they have access not only to get those emails, but they can log into the portal and access a lot of more content and data and information about the university. So very helpful for you to utilize the Gamecock Family Hub. The way I frame it is it's timely and relevant. So that's a big part of it. Timely, relevant, Gamecock Family Hub. The other pieces are the mobile app. Really easy. Again, an app that allows you to get to information very easily. One example that our families really like is the authorized user. This is where families are granted access to some of the financial components if the student wishes to share that. We put the login right in the mobile app. We put the academic calendar in the mobile app. Just things that as a family member you want to know, that's all in the mobile app. So really get to that parent gateway. That's the first step to getting connected. Join the hub. And then I highly recommend scroll down on that gateway. There's a whole section on supporting your student. And it's very much organized by health and safety, food and dining, academic support, and so on. So highly recommend check that out. You're going to find a lot of the information. Mike mentioned immunizations. We even have all the requirements right there. You can click on the link and it takes you right there so you know what you're needing to do. So the gateway is the best way, and then the hub. Anything else, Jonathan, you'd like me to add?
I think that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Lena.
Yeah.
So I think, Allison, this next one's going to be for you. We've had quite a few questions regarding parking arrangements during orientation.
Yeah, you will get an email, I think about 2 weeks out, 1 week out, and then I think 2 days out, if I'm not mistaken, that outlines all the specific arrival information that you need for new student orientation. We don't want to bombard you with all of the information at one time because we know it's a lot of information. And likely if you did it in March, you will probably have a hard time locating it in May, June, or July when you're attending new student orientation. So we'll send some reminders. One of those is the parking pass that you'll need for new student orientation. We encourage you to print it out ahead of time, leave it on your dash, and that'll allow you to park in Bull Street parking garage. For new student orientation, I mentioned earlier, we're in Patterson for the residence hall. It is right across the street, just a few steps away. So it's a really convenient location, and you can leave your vehicle there throughout the 2-day orientation experience itself. We'll have a lot of signage for sure. And also there will be some orientation leaders available kind of directing you into that location as well.
Perfect. Thank you. So Mike, I know you talked a little bit about Carolina Core with one of your answers. So we have quite a few questions. What is Carolina Core for those students who don't really know? And then also, what is the typical course load for a student's first semester when they're starting college?
Great questions. I'll do them in reverse order because the second's a shorter answer. So typical course load is going to be around 15 hours, typically 5 3-credit-hour courses. Could be a little more, a little less, depending on what it is you're doing in your first semester. A little more if you're taking a science class or two with labs. A little less potentially if you've brought in some AP or dual enrollment credits. But certainly we're generally looking at a 15-hour minimum every semester. The idea there is that's what you would need to do to graduate in 8 semesters or 4 years. Course loads certainly can also vary depending on the scholarship, any requirements of scholarships you have. So for example, in-state students coming in on a life scholarship, you have to earn an average of 30 hours a year. So we're going to need to make sure we do the things that we need to keep you on track to do that. So again, 15 hours, 12 is full time, but 15 hours tends to be where we want you to be, right around there. The Carolina Core is our name for what are our general education requirements here at the University of South Carolina. So the idea behind the Carolina Core is to make sure that all of our students have a common academic foundation upon which to build their major studies. Generally speaking, when we think about the general education requirements, we're talking about your liberal arts, your science courses. So think maths, English, history, social sciences, arts courses, speech courses, courses that you'll dive into ethical considerations. The idea there is that here at South Carolina, you're going to dive into the depth of your discipline in your major, but we're also making sure that you have a breadth of experience and education across those liberal arts and sciences to get the best of both worlds at an R1 research institution.
Great. Thank you for answering those 2 questions, Mike. So Allison, this one is for you. Is food provided at orientation? Also, if I have an allergen, how do I disclose that?
Great questions. Yes, so food isn't actually included in your orientation fee. Whether you're a family member or supporter or a student, we've automatically factored that into your orientation experience. So you will get breakfast, lunch, and dinner on day 1 and breakfast and lunch on day 2. So quite a few meals where you get to explore a little bit of what dining has to offer you on campus. You'll actually get the opportunity to eat in one of our dining halls, which I think is a really important aspect of new student orientation as well. And then we do have a few snacks and waters and things like that too, because again, it's hot in Columbia. So food is definitely included. We have a rotating menu. So if a friend attends the first session and then you come like 3 sessions later, you might have the same thing. You might have something different. Just depends. But all of it should be really great food from Gamecock Food Company. From there, if you do have any dietary restrictions or special accommodations or anything along those lines, this is also a really important aspect of new student orientation and getting established on campus. We have a registered dietitian that works with Carolina Food Co., which we really appreciate. It's an opportunity for you to connect one-on-one with that person and discuss any of those dietary accommodations that can carry into the school year as well. You'll need to register with the Student Disability Resource Center, and then from there you would connect with our dietitian, which is really great to kind of know what some of the options are on campus and how you can navigate any food related allergens or something along those lines. For orientation specifically, if you log into your registration portal for new student orientation, you can actually go in and list any accommodations as well as any family or supporter accommodations as well. So a lot of people think that that's only for like a mobility accommodation or something similar, but really when we mean accommodation, we mean anything, whether that is sight, hearing, mobility, or in this case, a dietary restriction or accommodation. So highly recommend setting that up, telling us exactly what it is. Maybe you are gluten intolerant, maybe you have a peanut allergy, anything like that, let us know. We'll pass that on to dining. That way they can be prepared for you when you come to new student orientation. And depending on what it is, we'll work with you to either have a separate meal provided or let you know what allergens might be on the menu. That way we can provide like a don't get this and add it to your salad or whatever those things might be, depending on the severity of it. So definitely let us know so we can plan ahead. We ask that all accommodations are submitted at least 1 week prior to new student orientation. That way we can plan appropriately for you.
Thank you, Allison. All right, Lena, we've had quite a few questions come in about already. Parents are so excited to attend Family Weekend. Can you elaborate on what kind of Family Weekend is and when to go ahead and mark your calendars?
I would say mark your calendars now. It's September 22nd, 23rd weekend. We are playing Mississippi State, so it is a football game weekend. And I think that's really important for our families to know that our Family Weekend is around football, but there's more than just football. We have lots of sessions on Friday all day with our academic colleges, our campus partners. University Advising Center has hosted welcome open houses and things like that in the past. I know orientation is looking to do something hopefully during Family Weekend too. So Family Weekend is an opportunity for your student to showcase campus to you. You get to build the schedule. You get to kind of decide how you want to navigate Family Weekend. We do create a package and an opportunity for you to kind of have a whole weekend experience, I would say, with 3 signature events, and those are the ones you would have to register for. Those don't happen until July. So you have nothing to do other than book your accommodations. Find your hotel, Airbnb, whatever that might be. That is really up to the families to get sorted out. We have information on our website. I'll have our team make sure to post that in the chat so you have access to the Family Weekend website. We just updated it. We put the registration details out. We even have football information out there, as well as the first part of the schedule. So highly recommend check out Family Weekend. We're excited. We bring in thousands of families, but I promise campus is so big. Everyone spreads out. There's plenty of space for everyone, and we really do have a good time with our tailgate party, a social on Friday evening, and we even do a president meet and greet where you're able to interact with the president, but also other leadership across campus. So we really want you to feel connected to our campus, but remember, it's about your student showcasing campus to you, as well as connecting you to their roommates and their families, and just a really great opportunity to make connections and feel a deeper, I guess, pride with Carolina. That's a big thing on our campus, is being proud to be a Gamecock.
Thank you so much, Lena. I'm so excited for Family Weekend already. After that spiel that you gave, that was wonderful. Alrighty, so we only have about 12 more minutes left of this webinar, so keep asking those questions. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. no worries if we don't get to your questions tonight. You'll receive all of the links to our contact information in a few moments, and you can feel free to contact our office and we will get you those answers to those questions that you all have. So Allison, if I am flying in to the Charlotte airport or even the Columbia airport, how do I get to campus?
Really good question. I'm going to separate the two because I've got good options for either. So if you are flying in from Charlotte, we do have a wonderful partner with the new student orientation office, the Columbia Charlotte Shuttle, that I highly recommend, especially for our out-of-state folks in general. Go ahead and buy the pass where you get like a bundle. You save a little bit of money. It's very helpful. That's Columbia Charlotte Shuttle. They service from Charlotte to Columbia and will drop you off right on campus. So that is a really good option. For our folks flying in and out of Columbia, in those cases, I would recommend one of our rideshare services. That's probably the easiest and most effective way. Those are things that you probably all already know, and probably others that I don't even know about. Things like Uber or Lyft. I think there's a new one called Koala Craze or Cruise maybe. There's a lot of different options available. Highly recommend them. We have no direct affiliation with them, but I know that that's a best practice that we've seen a lot of students and families explore in the past. And if you do want to do rental cars or anything like that, just in case you want to do any sightseeing or explore, a lot of both Columbia and Charlotte airports have car rental areas on campus or on their locations. So you can always rent a vehicle that way and still park in the parking garage that we talked about a little bit earlier. So those are all viable options for you as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Allison. And so, Mike, I know you've already given a wonderful overview of what the advising process will look like and how to prepare for it, but we still have quite a few questions. Can you just double check, double touch on if advising will be individual or as a group when they're coming through orientation?
I sure can. And do you mind? I've seen a couple other advising questions, so for the sake of time, I'll fire off a couple quickly. Advising will be a mix of individual and group, depending on your college. Everyone will likely have some version of group, and then potentially a small period of time that's individual. Advising is going to be 1 to 5 on day 2 of first year student orientation, freshman orientation. And then the other question that I wanted to make sure I address, I've seen it a couple times in the chat, is whether or not parents join advising and registration. Supporters, we love your support, but that is going to be a time that's just for Gamecocks. Current Gamecocks. I'm sure there's some past Gamecocks in that supporter group. There's a lot of reasons for that. Namely, this is one of the first opportunities for our Gamecocks to sort of make some decisions on their own, have an important conversation with a representative of the university and their academic advisor. Talked earlier about a lot of things students can do to prepare. Our supporters can absolutely help them with those preparations, but that is a student-only time with their academic advisor. You'll certainly be able to attend the college visits on day 1, though. Jonathan, I hope you don't mind that I stole the spotlight to answer a few of those other questions just for a moment.
That is totally fine, Mike. I am 100% prepared for advising now, so thank you for that. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I know we couldn't get to everyone's questions. Feel free to contact our offices. I'll share that information. But our final question is going to be for you, Allison, and it is regarding the scholarship and financial aid offices. Will I be able to hear information and receive information from them at orientation?
Yes, a very important question. And yes, you will hear from the Bursar's office as well as financial aid. They'll talk about not only how to afford coming to USC, but also how to actually make those payments because those are 2 separate offices. And that's a big kind of confusing process when we think of terminology in different areas. So you'll hear about them. You'll hear about University 101, the University Advising Center, and Mike's fine staff will present a little bit. You'll hear about parking and transportation, Carolina Card, dining on campus, truly anything that is a service that you will use within your first year, housing, all of those pieces will be covered, plus some of the more optional pieces and how you can get involved and make the most out of your experience, or utilize different resources available like the Student Success Center. So tons of different resources, but absolutely we're going to talk about the financial aspects of coming to USC. And for our family members, I know sometimes you want a little bit more one-on-one attention with financial aid or the bursar's office. And in that case, stop at the information desk at New Student Orientation. We're always happy to point out directions to one location or another on campus, and make sure you leave orientation having all of your questions answered, because ultimately that's the goal. And if not, you know where to find us. So yeah.
Yes, thank you all to our panelists answering these questions today. You all did a fantastic job. So I'm going to go ahead and share the resources. So each of our offices will be on these slides, and I will kind of run through them. So the first slide that you are going to see is a link and a QR code to our registration guide. So you may be joining us right now, watching this webinar, and maybe you haven't registered for orientation. That is totally okay. You can go ahead and save this. This is also on our website, but it is a QR code link to our registration guide. It will tell you how to register, when to register, what to expect, all of the wonderful things that all these panelists talked about today during this webinar. So I'll go ahead and leave that up for a few more seconds, and then we will switch on over. So the first slide that we have is from Lena, the wonderful Parent and Family Programs Office. So all the wonderful information that Lena addressed today in the webinar, you can find it here. So feel free, Lena, if you want to chime in and talk about it, you're more than welcome to. If not, all this information to contact Lena and her office is on this slide. And don't forget to save that date for Family Weekend, September 22nd and September 23rd.
Thanks, Jonathan. I think you covered it. I think for my families and supporters, think of us as your one-stop shop. We are here for you from the point of entry when your students here now went through orientation all the way through commencement season. So don't forget about us. We're here for the duration of your students' time at Carolina.
Alrighty, I'll leave this up for a few more seconds to make sure you get your Parent and Family Programs information. We're going to go ahead over to the University Advising Center. So again, this is all the amazing information that Mike shared today during this webinar. Feel free to contact their office and Mike himself directly via their webpage link, their phone, their email, and they even have a Twitter account. So feel free to update them on any information, Mike, if you feel deemed fit. But I know you answered so many questions today, so we're really grateful to have you.
I appreciate it. I'll say real quick, please do reach out to us if you need anything. Your academic advisors are going to be your go-to folks. Students, once you're here on campus, they are absolutely incredible. I've been on campus for 10 years now, almost 10 years, and we have the best group of academic advisors we've had on this campus in my 10 years. That Twitter account, I will say, is not the most exciting Twitter account you will find, but we keep it chock full of important dates and announcements that students need to know for registration, course withdrawals, all that kind of important stuff. Big dates and deadlines placed. So it's a great option to follow for parents. Please also make sure to tune in to the WNBA draft tonight. Selfishly, we've got some Gamecocks who are up for the draft, and it's a good time to be proud to be a Gamecock tonight.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks for adding that in. So I'll leave this slide up for a few more seconds to make sure you get the University Advising Center's information. And then we have one more office for you. And that is going to be our Office of New Student Orientation. So we are so excited to see you all so soon coming through orientation. And we cannot wait to welcome the new in class, the new incoming Gamecocks. We're so happy and excited to meet you all so soon. Again, as the other offices slides beforehand, you'll see our website, you'll see our phone number, you'll see our email. We are always constantly checking our phone, our emails, and even our social media messages and our DMs. So feel free to ask any questions that maybe we didn't get around to and weren't able to answer today during the webinar. But we do have a really fun podcast as well that has a lot of information, not only necessarily regarding orientation, but just being a student, being a college student, and being a Gamecock. So I want to plug that. Definitely feel free to go ahead and listen to our podcast, Getting Cocky About Orientation. We have quite a few episodes. And I'll turn it over to you, Allison, if you have any last things to add regarding our office.
just know that we are getting ready for you. We're super excited to welcome you to campus, show you around this fantastic place that we hope will become your new home away from home. If you do have any questions, please know that there are 4 people on this call, plus a few behind the scenes that are helping us with questions and answers, as well as a team of fantastic faculty and staff members that are dedicated to making sure this is a good, smooth transition and that you get the best 4 or so years out of your experience. So if you have questions, ask. We're here to help. We're happy to make this our profession. So reach out and let us know how we can make it a good experience for you too.
Yes. So I want to say one more time, thank you all for joining us live. And if you're watching us later, we're so happy that you all were able to hopefully get some of your questions answered, and feel free to contact our offices. And thank you once again to all our panelists. Thanks so much, Lena, Mike, and Allison for joining us today.